Hello friends, welcome back to another nail video. Today we're doing some kind of Thanksgiving-y holiday, autumnal, however you want to say it, nails. We are going to be doing some stamping over stamping, adding some detailing, putting in some gemstones, lots of fun things going on here. So first off, I'm using some Maniology plates, and this nail I've said this in other videos before, but it didn't cover the whole length of the nail, which happens sometimes. And you can typically go in and restamp to match up the patterns. Though, as you can see, I just goofed on that one and I didn't match it up real well when I stamped it down. If this were on a client, I wasn't going to do something else, I would probably take it off and do it again. But because I know that I'm going to be using that nail for gemstone lineup, I don't really care. I'm not really worried about it. I just need it for a background. So I'm going to go right over that line anyway. The second nail, you can see I just stamped the same pattern, but I took my tape and took off half of it at an angle, which made a nice little side French. If you're looking for an easy way to do French, that's a great way to do it. You can also use like a sticker. If you have those French stickers, you could use a sticker and put it down on the stamper before you pick up your stamping to make like a French plaid, which is really kind of neat. I might do another video of that, maybe around Christmas time. I'll use that. I'm going to do the same thing again, but in the opposite direction. So you can see I'm just using my stamp to clean up. And I'm going to I'm going to stamp in the opposite direction going that way. I am using I believe that it's a beige. It's, I think it's called Cozy Up, perhaps. And it's a creative polish, gel polish. Yes, gel polish. I had to think if I was working on regular polish or gel polish. This is one of my other favorite plates because it has lots of leaves and acorns and squirrels and all kinds of fall-esque things. It also has some I can't talk today. Fantastic sunflowers. And I'm going to be using a coloring book technique for this. So what I'm going to do is put the outline on my stamper. I'm going to take off anything that I don't want on my stamper, so that I'm not coloring things I don't need. I did leave some of the leaves as well, and I'm not really worried. I'm going to check it right now to just kind of check on placement, but I'm not really worried about, having edges and going over. It doesn't have to be perfect because remember, the nails you're working on are not that large. So this is a pretty large stamp and I'm only going to be using parts of it. I am going to have enough on this to be able to do all the nails I want to do, which is really nice. And so now you're going to watch me do the coloring in part. I have both Movavi London out and Maniology. And a mini on. I'm going to start by coloring in the centers first. You could absolutely do this with a liner brush or a detailer brush. I was honestly wanting to do something quick and I was being kind of lazy. I also wanted it to have a little bit of a handmade quality to it where it really did kind of look like somebody colored it from a coloring book. So I didn't want it to be overly perfect. You do have to be careful. If you're doing it this way, I had to wait a little while because I'm using a full nail polish brush as opposed to a detailer. So some of my spots were a little bit heavy and I had to wait for that polish to dry. So that's the only downside of doing it this way. And obviously you can see I have to be a little bit careful because my design is fairly small and I don't want to overlap into that center too much. Although in retrospect, I honestly could have gone right over the center and not really worried about it. I don't know why I didn't. If you want more intensity of color, I didn't need it because this is on a light background nail. I'm just checking my art there. It's on a light background nail, so I didn't have to worry too much. However, if I had been stamping this on a dark red or a dark green or something like that, I would definitely have wanted to back all of this with white after it dried. So I would let the stamp dry, paint the whole back of it white, and then stamp it on. And the reason for that is because if you don't, then your colors will be very muted and almost on really dark polish, it can come across almost as muddy sometimes, which is something I have learned over time and playing with this kind of coloring book stamping. So again, if you're stamping coloring book on a dark color, you need to make sure you put white on the back. And if you're stamping on a light color, you don't generally have to worry about it. I'm just going back in and touching up any spots that didn't have enough of that yellow tone. And I really loved the way this came out because they really do look like somebody just kind of colored them in. I'm just lining this up now to see where I want the placement to actually be. And I'm going to go right in and stamp on. I'm being intentionally slow when I press down and wiggle and then pull off, because if you're not, sometimes you won't get the whole stamp onto the nail. This is where I'm going to use that extra piece. This is my nail. See that line up there? We're going to fix that with some crystal placement in a little bit. And so I'm going to use my final sunflower over here in the corner. And that worked out great because it just gave a little hint of something on all of the nails. You'll notice that on one of the nails, if you look closely, I know, I shouldn't even tell people this, but if you look closely, unfortunately, when I put the top coat on, I did drag a little bit of the color down in, which bummed me out. I could have gone back and touched it up by using a little polish remover and, trying to fix it, but I didn't. And I'm realizing too that I did lie. I didn't use gel polish on this. This was nail polish, not gel polish. I'm next going to go in for our last nail in this set. And this is where I'm using Movavi. It is very translucent. You can see that on the stamping plate itself. So, which again is fine because I'm using a light color. If I were using this on a dark polish, I would definitely want to go in and either back these with white, or I would need to use a more opaque paint. But again, I'm using them on a light base, so I'm not too worried about it. And we're going to create this nice little fall design in the corner over here. I love this nail. It's probably my favorite one in the group. So I'm going to go in and press down, and then I'm going to add a couple leaves where they didn't pick up as well. There we go. And it just looks like leaves blowing across the nail. Like I said, it's one of my favorite nails. We're going to go in and just clean up that line now that I have everything stamped in so that it looks like these nails, like the leaves are just poking out from behind this plaid. Maybe it's a blanket. I don't know. So I'm using the same blue that I used to stamp the plaid, and we're just drawing a line straight up to clean up the edge and make the leaves look like they're poking out from behind. And then after this, we are going to add a little bit of detail to the leaves in just a minute, once I get this cleaned up. What I did essentially was, because you can see that plate doesn't have a second stamp to do some of the line work, which is completely fine. But because it doesn't, I decided I wanted a little more detail on my leaves. So I went in and used a darker brown polish to just add a little bit of detail. I'm going to do that now. The other thing I think I forgot to mention, I'm going to zoom in so you can see. So don't get super crazy about your details. You're just adding like a suggestion that it's there. You don't want to get too crazy. Because if you get too crazy, then oftentimes we end up blooping because, you're adding essentially too much detail to the design. For being as delicate as it is, it doesn't need a whole lot to get there. There. And now I'm going to put in the gemstone alignment that I told you about earlier. Not gemstone. They're not gemstones. Crystals. Crystal alignment. So I have some crystals out of my palette, and I started with my silicone tool, but it was giving me a hard time. So I'm going to switch in a minute to my tweezers. You could absolutely do this with a crystal picker. I just don't seem to have one. I had one and then I lost it. I don't know where it is. I am going to do some pretty large crystals on this one just for fun. And I am just using top coat. If I were doing this on a client, I might use the crystal fix. I might not. It depends on how long I want it to last on the client. If you wanted it to last, say, like 3 weeks, it'd be a good idea to use the Crystal Fix, but some of my clients only wear these for a week or a week and a half, sometimes 2. So, it just depends on the client and who you're working on. But you can see already that line has disappeared, and now we just see a peekaboo of the rest of the plaid up top and around it. So that's why I wasn't really worried about it earlier. The other thing this does using the crystals here is it allows me to tie everything in to the nails together. So I have some gold, I have some green, and I have this, it's kind of a champagne-y color, champagne iridescent. For the crystals themselves, and that really just kind of brings together the leaves and the sunflowers and the leaves on the sunflowers and adds a nice little touch. Once I get the crystals all where I want them to be, they will dry pretty quickly because of the top coat that I'm using, and so you don't have a lot of time to move these around. That's the other thing. If you're if you're not using a crystal fix, if you're using a top coat to secure your crystals, you only have a minute or 2 to move those around before they will kind of set in place. Now I am dotting in top coat all around the stones, and there's 2 reasons for that. One is to help fill in those spaces so that clients don't catch them. The other reason why is because I'm going to use these cabochons, I think they're called. They're like little flat-backed, I call them dots. I'm going to use the gold dots, and I'm just using those to go in between the crystals, just to give it a little bit more of a finished look. And then it tends to almost look a little bit like jewelry on the nail, which is kind of neat. It's a neat way to create that kind of bracelety look on a nail. And I'm just going to move those around until I'm happy with them. I know some people get very concerned about top coating over the top of crystals. I'm going to say that in all the years, which is like almost 30, that I've been doing nails, I have never had an issue. And in fact, I find that I like it because clients tend to bang their nails. They're using them for stuff. So this way it keeps them from getting scratched as easily, and it also keeps them super shiny so that they don't get, kind of scuffed looking over the course of a couple weeks. So don't worry about going over the top of your gemstones, especially if you're using top coat to affix them. I can't say I've used gel top coat on top of crystals because I usually put that on top of the top coat, but I'm sure you could. And there we have it. So that is this set of sunflower nails. I hope that you guys are having a great fall. It's almost Thanksgiving, and that means, wait for it, Christmas nails are coming. I can't wait to do some Christmas nails. I'm working on it. I actually filmed these right before Halloween. That's how long ago I did these, sadly. And I just hadn't had time to edit them. So you can enjoy them for Thanksgiving. And then I will be back. I have one more set of fall nails you will not want to miss, which is another fun set with some pumpkins and some decals, which I don't do often. See, there's where I messed it up. I dragged it down, but it ended up being okay because it kind of looks like a leaf and a stem that just got a little loose, but I'd prefer it not be there. So I have one more fall set coming up, which is also very sweet and simple for Thanksgiving. And then we will be on to Christmas nails, my friends. I hope you are having an awesome time. Enjoy your nail art every day, and I will see you next week.